Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is a matter of great honor and immense pride for me to welcome you all to this episode of USI Strategic Dialogue. And today I have with me Major General S.B. Asthana, retired, who has been the Director of Courses at USI for the past 11 years. Isn't that right, sir?
Yeah, that's right.
And Sir is a, globally acknowledged defense and strategic analyst. He has written over 500 articles which have been published in India and abroad. And he is a well-known figure on TV, both in India and abroad. And recently during Operation Sindoor, he was very much in demand. And he is very much in demand because of his depth of knowledge, which is often unmatched, and his very balanced views on putting across the subject. Now, he explains the subject in a very simplistic manner for everybody to understand, and that's only possible because the vast amount of scholarship he has to his credit, and I must compliment him for that. And today I'm very fortunate to have him with us on this show to discuss an issue which is actually in center stage. And it's, what is it? Trump's tariffs. And what are the tariffs on India? Which are the tariffs plus punitive tariffs over and above the tariffs, which have almost crossed 50% and is almost aimed at crippling India's economy. The relationship with US, which over the last 25 years was built up to a great degree, is now, I won't say on thin ice, I'll say the ice has been broken, that thin ice has been broken. And it's after the tariffs were announced announced earlier and implemented from 27th August, the tensions have been simmering. So President Trump's approach to India has been, totally, personally, very upsetting for everybody. And most people see it as very impulsive. They see his behavior as, shifting from one to the other. No one knows what is going to happen next. But what has taken place is he's dismantled decades of trust and decades of goodwill that has built up between India and US over the last 25 years. And now, how will this impact India? What is the effect of these tariffs? Why did they impose these tariffs on India? To discuss these critical questions, I could ask for no better person than General Asthana to, give us an insight into these tariffs, sir. Why did he put these tariffs on countries across the world? Why has he targeted India and Brazil particularly? And what effect will these targets have on Indian industry? Can you just throw some light on that, please?
Okay,
sir?
thank you, Jagadveer, and thank you for your good words. President Trump's tariff on India have, as you rightly said, damaged the 25 years of strategic partnership, which was built up with fair amount of diplomacy, because if we see our history with the United States, in almost about 78 years of independence, 50 years United States was anti-India for some reason or the other. It was only about 2.5 decades when we were getting closer and getting better. The relationship was getting better, and it had a lot to do with the threat from China, or China being seen as a major threat by United States.
Yes,
that was one of the major common concerns which brought us together.
So basically they wanted to prop up India to challenge China.
Exactly. So that was part of the Indo-Pacific strategy and a part of Indo-Pacific pivot, which they were looking into India. The tariffs of President Trump have disturbed a lot. And if I have to see the logic as to why he has done it, we have to understand as to what was the thought process behind it. Firstly, he started off in his election that we are being unfairly treated in trade by the rest of the world, and everybody is putting more tariffs on us and we are not putting lesser tariffs. That was his logic when he started doing elections, and he was trying to gather support in elections. And when he became the president, then he started off looking at every country, friend or foe, everybody together. He was looking at as to how much tariff that country has on him, and can he reverse it, or can he make a retaliatory tariff or things like that. So certain calculations were wrong, which he has done. Now his logic was that, okay, India puts a lot of tariff. If we have to go by the figures, roughly USA on Indian goods was putting about 2.5% tariff, and Indian tariff was varying between 10% to 80%.
To 18.
80%.
80%.
Yeah. So he's right when he says that India was putting more tariff, and same was the case with the rest of the world too. But the question was, this calculation is a wrong calculation because he did not calculate the services and the education sector. Because the amount which they are earning from us in these two sectors is quite substantial. And then this equation goes haywire.
Yes,
Totally.
but these tariffs are not targeting the services sector.
Yeah, exactly.
The tariffs are only targeting the manufacturing sector.
Yeah, that's right.
And people are fearing that if it goes into the services sector, the impact will be far greater.
Certainly. But the issue was that when he was looking at, because his contention was that India is having about 45.7 billion surplus.
Yes, trade surplus
with me. So therefore, there is an unfair tier system. So which is not unfair for the simple reason because he did not calculate how much he is earning from us in education sector and how much is the gap in service sector. So these two sectors were eliminated because it doesn't suit him. So to make a case actually. So now he made a case that, okay, this is the
Talking of education, there's a statistic that came out the other day. The Indian students in the US are the largest by far of any other country.
Exactly.
And second is China, but trails us by a substantial margin.
Exactly.
And you can cover the rest together and they can't even match up to it.
Yeah, exactly. So this is something which did not suit him, so he didn't bother about it. So that's one part of it. So the first 25% of tariff which he put was basically with this logic, that is what he thinks, but certainly that's a flawed logic. The second 25% tariff which he has put, that is out of the 50% which he has put on us from 27th of August, the second part is that because we are buying Russian oil.
Yes, I'll come to that, sir.
Yeah.
That's
now,
a very...
This is again a flawed logic again, for the simple reason, because when it comes to oil, we are not the largest buyer of Russian oil, it is China. When it comes to LNG, we are not the largest, it is EU which is buying it. And more so, the hypocrisy is so evident for rest of the world that today USA is itself buying more fertilizers and nuclear fuel than it was doing earlier. In fact, Putin remarked when he met him in Alaska that under Trump, the trade between us has been more than 20% more than what it was.
There's been an increase in trade.
That has been increased.
Yes, so
secondly, he himself is trying to get into the Russian market as far as the energy is concerned.
That was in the papers. No?
Yeah. So ExxonMobil is trying to work it out with the companies which they were doing earlier. Sakhalin is one of the
Russian company.
So therefore, what you are trying to do, you are telling India not to do. That's the that's
exactly.
first part.
Now I'm talking Russian oil. You've covered a very important point, and I think this needs a little more debate because India has been unfairly targeted for Russian oil. Now, if you look at it, when the war took place, there were sanctions on Russian oil. Yet there were sanctions on oil, and that you very categorically brought out, there are no sanctions on energy. So the energy continued flowing towards, that is, gas continued flowing towards Europe because they needed it for electricity and for heating. And uranium also...
let me correct you here. Interestingly, there is no sanction on oil till now. Interestingly, the only thing which America put was that there is a price cap.
Correct. I was coming to that, sir. So they said you have to buy the oil at the price cap.
Exactly.
And they said that India should buy the oil Otherwise, if India doesn't buy Russian oil, the other OPEC countries have not increased their oil production. And as they haven't increased the oil production, the oil prices will increase. And as a result, global inflation will increase.
Yes.
So to keep global inflation down, and I think the previous US Ambassador Garetti is on record talking of this issue.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
So
Absolutely,
for Biden's
absolutely.
administration had asked us to buy oil,
Yeah.
and now we are being targeted by Trump 2.0 for buying this oil. But do you feel, sir, that are we being used to, pressurize Russia in a way by imposing these sanctions because he wants to have a consolidated, comprehensive peace agreement? So I want your views on that, sir.
See, he is giving this excuse, all right, but this excuse is a flawed excuse for the simple reason because Russia-Ukraine war will not get impacted by that. For the simple reason, as far as we are concerned, we did not start the war. As far as our trade is concerned, it is already there. We really already discussed that we are not the largest buyer as well. If you see the causes and if you see the impact on the war today, I am very clear that Russia-Ukraine war will not stop till the time Russia captures Donbass and Russia captures the remaining portion of Donetsk region. Till then, it is not stopped. Whether you put sanctions, whether you put put tariffs, sanctions, or any kind of threat which you can put, or you start doing negotiations, nothing will move. The reason is very simple. Russia has included Donbass in its constitution. That this is my territory as per constitution. So Russian stakes are that either Ukraine gives me under a agreement and I will give him some concessions in Zaporizhia and Kherson, or I capture it. So this is the stake, and rest everything is an eyewash. So people can keep saying, Europe can keep doing what they want, President Trump can keep making all kinds of initiatives. This is not going to stop. So as far as, and this I think they know very well. See, Russia is a gainer. They hold 20% of territory. It is an undeniable fact. Ukraine doesn't have manpower to beat or take back this territory. Undeniable fact. It's also undeniable fact that since Ukraine doesn't have the manpower, irrespective of how much help Europe gives or Americans give to Ukraine, they will not be able to beat Russia.
Because Europe is not willing to put troops on ground.
Yeah.
So they said, we'll help you as far as equipment goes, as
and
far as
troops on ground
ammunition
of
goes.
Europe means Third World War. Simple.
Third World War, exactly.
Nobody will start off because Russia is the largest nuclear power.
Correct.
So I mean that equation just doesn't. It's a mutually assured destruction kind of thing. So that is not going to work. So everybody knows that that is a lame excuse as far as it targeting India is concerned. Now let me give you the strategic perspective as to why India is being targeted. See, President Trump and America is most scared of one thing, that if the BRICS countries, which are when they trade amongst themselves, they are trading about $700 billion, and the trade of individual BRICS country when collectively put together is what is working out with USA, it works out to almost $3 trillion. So what they are looking at is that if they start doing trade amongst themselves, and if they start doing trade in local currencies, and if they start working towards de-dollarization, Americans' financial clout is gone. Now that is the biggest worry. So therefore, President Trump, if you recall, has been saying that BRICS is against me, and therefore indirectly he wants to target BRICS and break BRICS. Now to break BRICS, few things are required. He cannot take on China, India, Brazil together. And therefore, what he has tried to do now is, he is targeting India and Brazil now. And in case he succeeds, then he will try and take on China. Till now, he cannot take on everybody together. That's one part of it. The second part is that when he did this kind of, shall I say, economic coercion, few countries did give up. Like EU, like Japan,
like
everybody,
South Korea.
like South Korea, everybody has given him 0% tariff. So now his problem is, if these guys can fall in line, why not India?
Correct. So everybody
So
has.
a wrong precedence has been set, and therefore his economic coercion and his, shall I say, all the kinds of gestures which he has made, and he has also made certain demeaning remarks. Now all this others have tolerated. Now he has come head on with somebody who is a very dignified figure like Prime Minister Modi, and a country which has pride, and therefore he has faced a stumbling block. And India is going to stand its ground.
Okay, so before we go to the next question,
Yeah.
a word on what you said earlier. So one of his advisors, Peter Navarno, has also gone on record to say that, Modi is fueling the Ukraine war. And he's called it Modi's war also at times. I think he wrote an article in Financial Times, saying how India buying Russian crude and then, gaining from it has actually furthered the Russian cause as far as the Ukraine war is concerned. So can you just touch on that,
See,
sir?
all the aides of President Trump have no choice but to find awkward logics to support an unawkward or to an absolutely awkward step which has been taken. So this is a very major issue with all of them. So that's why they keep finding flawed logics.
Okay.
That's one part of it. Secondly, when it comes to now, as far as India is concerned, I think we must cover that part importantly. See, India cannot compromise on farmers, it cannot compromise on fishermen, it cannot compromise on MSMEs, and it cannot compromise on dairy products, because this is manpower intensive. We have poor population. Also, out of G20 countries, we are the country which has the lowest per capita GDP. So therefore, our energy affordability is much lesser. So therefore, we have to buy energy in a manner that we ensure our energy security, energy availability, and energy affordability. Now, these are deadlines. These are red lines of India. We cannot violate it. And therefore, the government has rightly taken the stand. And whatever President Trump is doing, we have to endure it. It is a short-term pain. This pain we have to go through. Because if we don't go through it, we suffer a bigger pain
on the long term.
For a long term, that we would, if we succumb to his pressure, then firstly we will have to keep accommodating against our national interest, number one. And number two, this is the time when we need our economic sovereignty intact. So losing economic sovereignty, we know that at some point of time, 100 years back, we fought Swadeshi to throw out a colonial power. Now we have to throw out an economic coercion from our head and stand together and fight it out.
Sir, talking of all this, there was also a thing which came in a German newspaper that President Donald Trump had tried to call our Prime Minister 4 times. Now, I don't think that is correct news, because Indian government sources have not acknowledged that, so to say.
Yeah.
But what is your opinion on news like this doing the rounds, sir?
The news around this are going around for various reasons. Europe also wants that if there is a bifurcation or if it gets fueled, the US-Russia tariff standoff, US-India tariff standoff, if it fuels, Europe feels that perhaps it may be of some help to them. That's number one. Number two, as far as the call, even if the calls were made, I am very clear. Prime Minister Modi should not attend his call, because he has been misquoting Prime Minister Modi earlier as well, and he can misquote. So a tariff deal should be done by due process and not by tweets or by calls. So there has to be a proper mechanism. With that mechanism, we should go ahead, because if he can misquote earlier, he can misquote again. Because even if just, let's say hypothetically, Prime Minister Modi just attends the call, this guy is going to say that, okay, Prime Minister Modi pleaded that I should reduce tariff. So he can misquote, whereas we know what the stand which India has taken. So I don't buy that argument. As far as India is concerned, yes, we have to do a whole lot of other things. We have to diversify our markets. We also have to look for new markets. We have to increase our domestic consumption. And a fair amount of effort is being done towards that as well. Certain regulatory mechanisms are being put in place. Certain other help is being given to the exporters who are badly hit. Because everything is not badly hit.
Yes, because you see, bulk of the industries that have been targeted, shrimps, textile, gems and jewelry, leather goods, they're all manpower intensive. So you look at the unemployment that may come about if these units close down. As it is, they're saying, textile hubs like Tirupur, Noida and all, there's a lot of labor which is going to be affected, though the finance minister today said that steps are being taken to ensure there's no layoff. So, I mean, that's a positive thing that is being done. So, unemployment is the biggest concern. And like you rightly brought out, as it is, our population is so high, so our per capita GDP is much lower. So we can't afford that to go even lower, because then the government will be spending a lot as far as benefits to these people who are without jobs is concerned. So it is a matter of concern, but we have to either find alternate markets or do something else. So, what do you feel about the way ahead? How do we move from here?
Okay, see, we have to take on a lot of steps. I think when it comes to the economic measures, diversification of market is one. Atmanirbhar Bharat is another. If you recall, during Corona, we started manufacturing so many things which we never did. So, a awkward opportunity also opens out a lot of innovations.
That's a very valid point.
So, I am sure our entrepreneurs will certainly stand up to the occasion. That's one part of it. Secondly, the regulatory mechanisms will have to be made in a manner that industries which are affected, which you named very earlier, now those industries, they must have a fair amount of money for capital. Certain loan waivers or loan, shall I say, extensions will have to be given to them. A certain amount of capital will have to be given to them. Certain amount of exemptions in taxes and all will have to be made. So these are certain regulatory measures which can be taken. At the same time, we are also looking at the alternate markets. We should also be looking at collaborations because certain companies, certain manufacturing unit can also be sent to, or say semi-manufactured goods can be sent to certain other countries which have lesser tariffs, and then they can sell the finished product. So some kind of diversion can take place in that manner.
Absolutely. And since you touched on Atmanirbhar, sir, one question. We've talked a lot of Atmanirbhar as far as defense goes. Now, as far as our defense industry was going, our defense purchases, bulk of it was from the Russia or erstwhile Soviet Union. We had a large inventory from them. But lately, we've started buying goods from US. So, amongst the purchases that you've had is the, C-130, then the C-12, and as well as the P-8I for the Navy, as well as, the helicopters and all. Now, with this breakdown in relations, do you think our defense relationship and our defense deals and our defense collaboration will be affected?
In my opinion, I think we will have to have strategic patience as far as the major issues are concerned, especially the defense relationships. For the simple reason, because Trump's tenure is about 3.5 years. And even these tariffs are not going to last very long. There is a fair amount of opposition within America against the unfair targeting of India. So this is not going to be a very long affair. Secondly, as far as our diversification of the defense purchases are concerned, that I think we are doing, and we are doing fairly and squarely, because it's not only US and Russia only. We are also looking at France, we are also looking at Israel. So we are buying from many sources now. And most importantly, we are looking at whatever we can manufacture ourselves. That takes the highest priority. So IDDM, that is indigenously designed and developed and manufactured, that is the highest priority of purchases. And also, we are also looking at making a whole lot of other equipment and joint collaborations with a whole lot of other countries. It's not only some of these countries. So I think that is what we have to go on. There are many other defense agreements which are there. Now, these defense agreements are long-term agreements. They have survived some of the, I think almost 2 presidents, they have survived some of the agreements when we started off with.
Well, it started in 2005, sir.
So I think we will have to wait and see, because like it or not, see, tariff, it's not only India's pain, it is also American's pain. Because at the end of the day, we may run short as far as our exports are concerned, but at the end of the day, the money is being paid of the additional tariff by Americans.
That is there.
So the inflation will be there, and they can't help it. Even, let's say, hypothetically, if he is trying to dislodge us from a particular market, let's say textile market, somebody else get an advantage. But then the fact is that whoever gets an advantage, he will also hike up his price. He'll maximize his profit. And at the end of the day, who is going to pay? Finally, it is American who is going to pay. So once this hits Americans, then there will be a reset. And I'm very sure a reset is going to take place in a much shorter time. So we will have to have strategic patience. We will have to endure this pain for some time. And if we can do it, I'm very sure we can do it and we can absorb. See, maximum, let's take the worst case scenario. Even if all his tariffs are in place, our GDP is not going down more than 0.5%. We will still be the fastest growing economy in the world.
Today there was a thing that 0.37% on these current
So
tariffs.
depending upon as to what all tariffs he has in pipeline or what he thinks about it. So that's one part of it. So and also we have a very huge consumer market. Domestic consumption. So what is happening is that the companies which were actually totally export oriented towards US, they will have to look at making products or tweaking their product line in a manner that it is a cheaper product to suit the domestic consumption market. So now if that happens, it will make a lot of difference. And perhaps worst case scenario is we may have to put retaliatory tariffs, and some of the retaliatory tariffs can be quite painful for Americans too. Although we have not gone that line, because I think in America, everybody is flabbergasted, confused, and they are changing statements on daily basis. Whereas India is very patient, and you will not find very awkward statements coming out from the government sources. Although on Twitter, everybody is mocking America, that's a separate issue.
No, the government sources are very, very balanced.
Yeah,
very
so we have taken a very balanced approach, very matured approach, and with that matured approach, and we have not buckled, and I think the whole world has appreciated that.
No, sir, thank you very, very much for this wonderful interaction. I'm sure all our viewers have benefited immensely from what you had to say. But yes, there has been a remarkable shift from Trump 1.0, when, and today in Trump's 2.0, the relationship, like you brought out, is almost in tatters. And while in the first administration, he looked towards India to challenge, so to counter China. But today, he's looking for India to pressurize Russia to stop the war. And you rightly brought out how Russia is not going to stop the war until it reaches its war aims, which you very categorically said, that how Donbass is linked to the constitution. You've also given us a detailed insight into the tariffs and how they came about and what India should do and how we should get out of it. And it's very clear, sir, that, unfortunately, America just looked at its own interests from a very, very narrow viewpoint without looking at the larger good for the world. And when they talk of rules-based so-called order, I think there's all the rules have been broken and thrown out of the window. But
I must also add here that for an unreliable Trump-led US, we cannot let go a very reliable Indo-Russian partnership. That's one part. And secondly, unless Putin invites us, we are not going to mediate.
No.
Prime Minister Modi is very clear on that issue.
Yes.
So, for us putting any pressure on Russia is out.
No.
Also, Russia has also been very matured. They have never said, why are you trading with America?
Absolutely.
They have been very matured. They never made any awkward statement against us. We have to respect that as well.
So thank you very, very much, sir. I think this has been a wonderful interaction. Thank you very much, and Jai Hind to all of you.
Thank you. Pleasure talking to you.
Pleasure.
And your viewers. Thank you.